Welcome to the Greener Gifting Gang podcast, the show that delves into the reasons we love to choose, wrap, and share gifts with each other. Hi, I'm your host, Eve Kale, founder of Gift Wrapped by Eve, and I'm on a mission to help you experience the joy of gift giving while also considering the planet. Each episode, I'll be sharing ideas or interviewing guests who will help inspire your choice of gifts and how you present them. Whether that's for your own gifts or products you create or sell in your small business, we'll help you consider how to make small changes that can help your gifting be a little greener. Well, thank you very much for coming to talk with me today, Lorraine. I'm really excited to have another chat about your own gifting and also what you're doing with your business as well. So could you start by introducing yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, I'd be delighted to. Thanks for asking me along, Eve. So I'm Lorraine Allman. I'm founder of Party Without Plastic. We're an accredited award-winning marketplace. We sell single-use plastic-free party essentials. So everything from tableware and decorations to party bags, favours, games and gift wrap. All our sellers are UK small businesses. So every sale helps the planet, but also the people. And we basically show everyone how easy it is to celebrate in a sustainable way.
Brilliant. So, the podcast is called Greener Gifting Gang, and what you're doing fits the bill perfectly, doesn't it? You're absolutely helping people to gift and party in a greener way. It's absolutely fantastic. So, how did this all come about?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you have to bear with me when I talk about hedgehogs, because hedgehogs feature quite prominently on how it came about. So I've been sort of running my own business for many years, really, and I have a son. And when he was 13, during the first COVID lockdown, he discovered we had hedgehogs in our garden. You might think, how on earth does that relate to Party Without Plastic? But basically, over the last 5 years, so he's 18 now, he has become one of the most well-known hedgehog champions in the UK. So if you put his name into Google, if you just put Dylan, D-Y-L-A-N, and hedgehogs, I can tell you now all his stuff will come up about it. So he's done amazing work and talked about the challenges that hedgehogs are having as part of the wider biodiversity loss that we're experiencing as a planet. And what he showed me as just one young person is that you absolutely can make a difference, even just by making small steps. And I looked at him and we were talking about what I could be doing more, both as a parent, but also as a business owner. And we thought about all the parties that we'd had over the years when he was very little, and he had a sort of space-themed parties and dinosaur-themed parties and things like that. And I was feeling really guilty about all the kind of plastic stuff and bunting and party bags, and realised a lot of that was still going on, particularly around children's parties, but also, weddings and other celebrations. And when I did the research, I discovered that we, just in the UK, every single year, we get rid of 90 million kilograms of plastic waste just from parties and celebrations every year. And that's just in this country. And that is just an extraordinary amount of waste. And I was talking to my son about it, and he was like, well, look, and he's reached literally tens, probably hundreds of thousands of people with his message. And I thought, you know what, I think I can do something here to help people. And one of the biggest challenges for people is actually they want to do kind of party better or celebrate better or gift better. But it takes a long time to go through lots of different websites. And you've got to find 3, 4, 5. I know people who've looked at 9 or 10 different sites to try and find all the different bits that they need, to put together. And even then, they're not sure whether what they're buying, is it genuinely sustainable? Is it compostable? Is it biodegradable? What does that actually mean? And so I thought, I'm sure I can help with this. So I put myself through a whole load of learning. I joined the Institute of Sustainability and Environmental Practitioners. I've done lots of qualifications and learning with them, so I can teach myself about what what it means to be sort of environmentally friendly, and then basically built the marketplace. And as I said in the introduction, it's built around supporting small businesses as well, so that basically people can come in, they've got everything in one place. So you've got that convenience, which you absolutely need when you're trying to organize parties and celebrations, but also you can be assured, we're accredited as well through the Good Shopping Guide and the Global Good Market, so we have that accreditation so that visitors can be assured that what they're getting is genuinely sort of what they say it is. So yeah, I tend to say it's sort of from prickles to parties. That's kind of where it all came about.
That's a great way of putting it. It's a great story, and I really loved what you said about how you can make such a difference by starting small and making those small changes. And it's something we've talked about quite a lot on this podcast, and something that I'm always going on about is choosing maybe one thing to start with, and then you get that habit to stick, and then you can kind of move on to other things, so that otherwise it can become quite overwhelming, can't it? And
absolutely. I mean, when Dylan came back to me after discovering hedgehogs and realized how big the scale of their decline was, he was in tears, and he said, I can't do anything, it feels too overwhelming, it felt too big. And actually what I said to him then, not realizing how important this was going to be sort of 5 years on, I said to him, you just need to focus on one thing and do that one thing really, really well. Don't get caught up because he was feeling overwhelmed about, the scale of it. And it's like, you can't possibly, sort everything on your own. You can't do that. But there's an amazing number of people all kind of doing sort of one thing and making a difference. And that's exactly what I told him. And now what I have to keep reminding myself about as well. And absolutely, and parties and celebrations are really quite an easy win, to be honest with you, especially now you've got a marketplace where you can come get everything, but it is quite an easy win. And it's like, because for us, we're not perfect as a family. We try and reduce all our single-use plastic, recycle and participate in things like the big plastic count and things like that. But we it's still quite hard to do everything, and sometimes I think, oh gosh, I feel like I'm really failing here. But actually, you just have to remember every single little thing that you do really does make a difference, so yeah, I'm completely with you on that. It's not about, even if someone says, well, do you know what, this time I'm not going to use any cups, we'll use reusable glasses for our next party, for example. That might not work if you've got little children, of course, but there's other ways of doing that. So you might dispense with tablecloths and have fresh flowers, for example. So there's lots of, you might just choose one little thing, even just related to that party, and that's brilliant, like fantastic. It all makes a difference.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely found that with parties that I'm kind of over the age where my children want big celebrations. But even a smaller celebration last year, for example, I had conversation with my daughter, now she's older, about how we were going to decorate the room for her party. And I was the mean mum who said, no, we can't have any balloons, we're going to choose something different this year. And it was hard. It was a hard conversation. But we managed to do it, and we actually just used, it was a disco party, so we actually just used lots of little lights that we'd already got from different things that we've got in the house. And the room was still really, really nice, and we didn't need them.
And I think that's a great example of, having alternatives, and often people don't know what they don't know. So it's just about giving people ideas and say, okay, if you're going to say don't use balloons, because we can't endorse that. We don't sell balloons, on our site, because they're not biodegradable, regardless of what anyone says. They're not. So it's like, it's no good just saying that. You've got to be able to offer people alternatives,
Yeah.
and so they can go, well, okay, if we're not going to have that. So when you have that conversation with your child and they go, yeah, but I want balloons, it's like, well, actually there's this and there's this and there's this. So part of what we're trying to do is to educate and aware as well, and yeah, show those examples. And sometimes, as you say, the answer is they're already there in your house. Like you said, oh, we
Yeah.
already actually had some
Yeah.
lighting. We've got that
Absolutely.
music, and that's great, and if you haven't got those things, then obviously there are marketplaces and whatever where you can get those kind of things that you want. So you don't always have to buy new, and if you do, it's trying
Yeah.
to buy things that you can reuse as well.
Yes.
So trying to reduce as much as possible the single use. I mean, not even just single use plastic, but just single use
In
per se.
general. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So your website is kind of there to, the marketplace is there to inspire, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think part of the, sometimes being greener gets a bit of a bad name, bit of bad rep, doesn't it? The
Mm.
boring alternative. How can you party in this? How can you do a good party with, by making it
Age.
greener? Yeah.
Yes.
So what would you say if somebody said that to you?
Oh my goodness. You only have to go and look on the first page of our website to see that, eco partying is not beige, basically.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we do a huge amount of due diligence on all our sellers. No one's allowed on without, having lots of conversations with me and understanding what their products are, what their products are made of. If they're using dyes, are those vegetable dyes? We go way beyond just plastic,
Yeah.
basically. So we're looking at trying to reduce the environmental footprint overall. And sometimes you can do that quite well, and other times we're just not quite there yet in terms of materials. So I would say, yeah, you just need to go and have a look in the marketplace on page 1, really, and see the amazing array. And these have all come from small business sellers in the UK. So, and
Amazing.
they are doing so much more than a lot of the bigger brands, basically, because they're able to, and they're able to be, they're just so much more creative with colors and sustainable materials, that kind of thing. I know we're on audio, but Eve, you will see I'm just pointing to a pinata there.
Yeah.
Well, who knew that pinata? That was one I made, by the way. So I went to a workshop in London the other week to one of my sellers' workshops that they were running, and she taught me how to make a plastic-free pinata. So we've got loads. We've got
Wow.
everything from controller, PS2 controllers, to unicorns, to tigers, to wedding cakes, you name it. And it's like, don't tell me that's boring.
No, that's
And
really
not kind of,
cool.
yeah, it's extraordinary, and they're all completely plastic free. So yeah, just the proof's there, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
and what about the fact that perhaps it might, I can't go plastic free because it's going to cost me more. What would
Yeah.
how do people
Well,
do
I
that?
mean, I suppose it's one of those things where there are, I'm not going to, I'll be completely honest about it. There are some products which, you will be able to go down to your local supermarket and pick up for a quid, and get it. But you've got to look at where that's come from, how it's been manufactured. The packaging is nearly always single-use plastic as well. So all our packaging, we don't have any single-use plastic packaging either. And yes, all right, that's quick and easy for the pocket, but it's thinking a little bit beyond that and thinking about what the impact is. So everything, that doesn't genuinely biodegrade or compost is going to likely to still be around many hundreds of years after we've gone. And I know how I feel about that. And I know how a lot of other people feel about that. So there will be some trade-offs. But actually, I think we have party favors, we have things like that. Our pricing starts from actually just under £1
Yeah,
for amazing, handcrafted items. So it's not always, I think, keep an open mind about it. Yes, there will be times where you might need to spend a little more, but it's like, what price your conscience, but what price for moving towards a better planet?
yeah,
And that's up to people, and that's not about me judging. That's about people then understanding that and making their own decision about that.
And
And
I think it's weighing things up, and also maybe you test things out and you see how it goes. Like the conversation I had about the balloons, it was a trickier conversation, but it actually saved me some money as well.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go. I didn't buy balloons. We used something we'd already got in the house, and we saved something from being thrown away as well. So
absolutely.
sometimes the wins come in a different way than what you expect. So I think we're slowly moving forward, aren't we? We're not, and I think part of it is educating people that there is another option, because for a long time I think maybe we've gone down. Well, I feel like sometimes we're going back full circle to maybe the parties I had growing up, before all of this pressure maybe there was to do things in a way where there's a lot of extras. Perhaps.
I think you're right. I mean, I think I was reading a little while back, the average cost of a child's birthday is, I don't know, £500 or £600, and I just went, that's ridiculous.
Wow.
I mean, it really is crazy, and what the pressure that parents feel under, and it's like it's got to be whole class parties and everyone expects a party bag, and actually you can give, like, and I think some people are not comfortable with not giving or not comfortable with pre-loved, and there's loads of things that we suggest through our blogs and sort of toy swaps and book swaps, things like that. But there's also lots of other things, like giving children, for example, at a birthday party an activity to do, and then the result of that activity they then take those home. So a great example of that is the seed ball kit. So it's a bit mucky, a bit messy, but the kids have a great time. And basically get them all making their own seed balls up, right? And then they can choose which bits they want to put in and how many seeds they want to put in, and they take those seed balls home. Well, that and a piece of cake, like, I know my son would have been really happy with that. So it's just, again, about thinking about other ways of doing things and trying to ease that pressure, I think, on parents. And obviously we don't just, it's not just birthdays that we support. I mean, weddings are the other thing, and we're going to an eco wedding festival in a few weeks' time, and I'm really excited about that, because I know that people coming through the door are already in that mindset, thinking about, so weddings in the UK, they throw away over 5 million kilograms of plastic waste every year. Just from weddings. So the fact that people coming through the door are thinking about their wedding and thinking, how can I have a sustainable wedding, and they're going to be blown away by the things that we have there, and even things like how to keep the little guests busy at reception, right? It's always a tricky one, isn't it? And it's kind of like, well, I just don't want to do kind of crayons and colouring, because kind of it's a bit like going to a restaurant, and just colour it in. And it's like, we have these amazing rolled up or origami favors, and they create them in dinosaurs and plants and tulips and ice creams and all sorts of things, and they're great even for little kids to do, and they cost less than £1. It's thinking kind of creatively about it, and trying to take the pressure off a bit, I think, for people, so that they don't feel they've got to sort of stuff a party bag full of things that, frankly, I remember when my son was going to these things, and I used to watch the kids around me, and they used to pull everything out, have a quick look at the toys, and eat the cake, and that would be it. And you go, what's that about? So it's I'd like to feel that we can help a bit by taking that pressure off a bit and giving people some different options that they may not have thought about.
Yeah, definitely. I'm interested to hear that you're now looking at other occasions, not just just birthdays, and that's really interesting, because we love a celebration here in the UK, don't we? We really do. Yeah, there are so many reasons so many reasons to party, so many reasons
yeah.
to give gifts, and
Yeah,
yeah,
100%. So we launched our AI Sustainable Party Planner a couple of months ago, about a month and a half ago. And it's been really interesting to see how people are using that. So the first thing we ask them is what is the occasion? So you have weddings, birthdays, retirements, baby shower, engagement, hen parties. You know,
yeah,
you're right. I mean, I was thinking this list could go on a long time, right?
yeah.
Um, and then we kind of say, where do you think you're going to hold that? Is it going to be indoors or outdoors? And, what kind of party do you want? Is there a particular theme? And then based on the kind of answers to those questions, we have a really neat bit of software that works and starts to help people plan their party, but in a sustainable way. And it's fascinating. They're
Fantastic.
definitely not using it just for birthdays or weddings. And so we've really opened up our marketplace. Certainly, you and I haven't spoken for some time, and it's really properly opened up now. We've got sort of seasonal stuff coming on board now as well, and we're even bringing on a business to business section very soon as well, so we can support businesses with events, exhibitions, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Again, doing it in a sustainable way.
So there's so much scope here. And what I
Yeah,
love about what you're doing is that you're also supporting small businesses
yeah,
in what you're doing, because it's a great opportunity for small businesses to do things differently. You're starting from a smaller, you're able to make changes more quickly as well. So if
yeah,
you want to, if you
definitely.
haven't thought about sustainability yet, and you're a small business, that it's not too late to make a change, and you can make those changes more easily than a bigger business probably.
Oh,
Um,
100%. I mean, I've had sellers who've come in, or potential sellers who've got in touch with me and said, I'd love to be on your marketplace. And when we've had a conversation, I've discovered that some elements of what they are doing aren't actually plastic free. And they
yeah,
said, oh, I didn't think about that. And that's okay. I said, well, look, so I'm happy to kind of guide them and help them find alternatives. So things like googly eyes, for example, and replacing those with things like maybe wooden buttons. I mean, it's just an example.
yes, yeah,
And that's exactly what someone actually did a while ago. And then they came back to me and said, look, actually, or they said to me, well, I'm still sort of trading on Etsy, but I really want to come onto your marketplace. So if I remove those elements, it isn't going to actually make a huge difference to the product. If anything, it makes it more interesting. Can I do that on the understanding that, I don't include those items? Yeah, absolutely. And you build a relationship with a small business, so there's a whole thing about trust there, which you can't get with big businesses.
yeah,
I can put my hand on my heart and know that I've spoken with, and I know every single small business seller,
yeah,
and we have a chat and everything else, and we've got the whole due diligence to go through. But absolutely, and that makes a huge difference, because then I know that people can trust then
mhm,
what's on a marketplace. But you're absolutely right, small businesses are incredibly creative and are able to pivot and adapt. And how quickly that person came back to me and said, right, I've got rid of those now and I've replaced them with this. Oh, brilliant,
yeah,
fantastic. And sometimes they just went, oh God, I hadn't even thought about that. And I go, you're welcome.
yeah, exactly.
And that's fine. And sometimes it isn't for them, and it isn't for us. And occasionally I've just said, look, this kind of isn't really for us, because you're still bringing in like recycled plastics, so we don't accept recycled plastics either. And I'm not saying I wholeheartedly agree anything that keeps plastics out of our landfill, out of our oceans, has to be a good thing. But the bottom line is, even recycled plastic will still have an end life,
Yes,
and that end life is still going to be in a landfill, in
yeah,
oceans, in some form or other. And that's exactly what we're kind of trying to avoid. So occasionally we have to say no,
yeah,
but at the moment we've got, because I've been working away a little bit, I've got this huge long waiting list at the moment of sellers. By the way, if anyone's listening, they want to join,
yeah,
don't let that put you off, please apply. It just might take me a little bit of time to
yeah,
get through the wait
definitely.
list
I'm
at the
sure there
moment.
will be people listening who are interested, and
Yeah,
it's a great it's a great opportunity, and you can hear from what Lorraine's saying, there's a breadth of opportunities. We're not talking, we haven't actually mentioned Christmas at all, have we?
No, I did
No.
think, I think I mentioned seasonal.
Yeah, seasonal, but like, people
Yeah,
often think, oh, well, if I'm going to do something, it'll be for Christmas, but actually there's a massive opportunity throughout the whole year here for
yeah,
small businesses,
absolutely.
which is brilliant.
Yeah.
So how about when it comes to doing things for your own gifts? How have you what changes have you made since the hedgehog conversation about
Yeah.
how you
Oh my
use gifts?
goodness. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, aside of the usual sort of birthdays and special occasions and things like weddings and stuff, I do enjoy gifting actually. Sort of just because.
Yeah,
So just like little things, just to say, I'm thinking of you, and that sort of thing. But it's really interesting because I am so much more mindful of both what I give and indeed how I wrap it, or even if I wrap it. Um, Whereas before I'd often just reach for paper. I wouldn't even think about the difference between paper, the shiny stuff and the ordinary sort of craft paper and things like that. So
yeah,
I mean, I really love gifting. I mean, I do really. I was really looking forward to this conversation. But I tend to sort of go in with a bit of an open mind. So occasionally I might think, oh, I think, I've got a sister-in-law who loves elephants, for example. So she's quite an easy buy because it's like, anything related to elephants. But
yeah,
I kind of, a much more mindful really of it. And I think the biggest things for me around wrapping particularly are what's going to happen to that wrapping afterwards.
hmm
And that is really where I focus my time really on it once I'm sort of happy with
yeah,
the gift that I've given really. I don't profess to be at all much cop at wrapping, I have to say. Most people say, oh, Lorraine, it's lovely, I'm like, I'm sure they're just being terribly polite. I worry about paper that's just going to kind of be ripped up and possibly not sort of reused and that sort of thing. So some of the things I tend to do, it sounds a bit wacky, but I have been known, for example, to wrap gifts in old maps. So I'll choose a geographical area that means something to the person receiving the gift. It could be where they were brought up as a child or where they had a special holiday. And you can get old maps really, really cheap
yeah,
in sort of bookshops and all sorts of things like that. And actually wrapping the gift in a part of a map that kind of means something.
yeah,
That's something I really like to do. And similarly with children, really things like comics, you still can buy them, believe it or not.
yes,
Most things are online. Magazines, again, where it's meaningful to the recipient. Most recently, I have to say, I haven't got it here now because it's been gifted, but I've been getting into furoshiki, which is the traditional Japanese way of wrapping using fabric. And for me, it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving because
yes,
it's a fabric square normally, and basically you wrap it up. And I've been taught by a lady she's just come onto the marketplace actually with her furoshiki wraps, and I sent her a photograph of mine the other day, and she was absolutely delighted. And I said, "Oh, I'm sure if you probably could pick holes in it," but I had a delightful time wrapping this, for my sister-in-law, and it's a fantastic sustainable alternative to paper or plastic wrap, because of course that recipient can then choose to keep that for themselves. They might use it as a scarf or might use it to decorate something else, or they can use it to gift to someone else. So they can then choose to wrap a gift in that and give it to someone else. So I mean, it's fascinating. I'd love to put a tracker on something like that and
yeah.
see where that piece of fabric ends up over the years. I mean, that'd be a great idea, actually, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah,
It's
that's
a
you
really
could
good idea.
definitely do a little bit of a a
Yeah.
story, maybe attach something to it where you wrote it,
Yeah.
where it's been. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea, isn't it? So
Yeah.
yeah, those are the kind of things. So I've
Okay.
definitely become much more mindful, and I've learned about the scrunch test with paper. So
Yeah.
if it scrunches up and opens back up again, it's almost certainly not going in the recycling
Hmm.
drawer,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But if it scrunches up and it stays there, then it could be recycled. Those sort of things. I mean, it's been yeah, it's been a whole new learning world for me. And I mean, you obviously know all your stuff about that. And of course, one of the things I learned from you very early on, Eve, was just keeping all my pieces of paper. I have even been known to iron them out on
Yeah.
occasion. And I'm just looking over here, and I've got this whole pile now about like so high of and I go, oh no, keep that. My husband's looking at me, goes, you want to keep that one? Oh yeah, absolutely, because I can cut that out and I could use that as a gift card and da da da. So it's people look at me a bit, really, and I went, yeah, and then it's like, oh, that's a really good idea. So I've definitely learned that from you as well.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad to have helped. I do tend to keep a lot of things myself,
Yeah.
to reuse and
Mm,
use in different ways myself. Or I mean, I actually do sell scrap wrapping packs now so that people can
brilliant.
get hold of them
Yeah.
to reuse things if they want to. It's quite good for practicing as well, because obviously I'm showing people how to do different wrapping techniques, and so sometimes you do want something to practice on that isn't new, so that works quite
Yeah.
well. And I'm
Yeah.
about to put together a workshop just about reusing, because it's absolutely amazing what you can do with reused paper.
Yeah.
Lots of things that you might look at initially and think, well, what would I do with that? Well, that's not good enough. Actually, it
Mm,
probably is, and you can actually do some really clever things by putting old scraps together. So,
yeah.
oh, I love a bit of repurposing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's really, really good. So do you enjoy the process of wrapping?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's certain times, I mean, Christmas for me, like I have this
Yeah.
real thing at Christmas where I clear the dining table. My family just got to roll their eyes and go, here she goes. And I get everything out that I
Yeah.
need. And I put on some festive tunes. And I could spend a whole afternoon just happily rapping,
Yeah.
like I have this thing and it's like, here she goes, sort of thing. And I say, if you
Yeah.
don't like it, you can just go, because these are my tunes, I'm rapping, and that's, so to speak. And that's kind of how it works. And I do really enjoy that. In fact, some friends have said to me, do you think you could rap for me? Because they don't like it, and I
Yeah.
said, it's just about finding a space and a time. And I've got to be in the right mood to do it. But like, it's like I've got quite, Christmas particularly, there's usually quite a bit to get. And it's just getting it all there. And just like the tape, because obviously I don't use sellotape, so we use paper tape, and
Yeah.
and the colors and the choices are so beautiful now that
Mm.
you can just go, no, that'll go with that, and that'll go with that. And I know, before I know it, like a whole afternoon's gone
Yeah.
wrapping. As I said before, I don't think I'm actually that good at it, but it doesn't matter because I enjoy it.
Yes, I think
you know
somebody who came on the podcast a while ago talked about the joy or the magic of Christmas going into the presents. And I think there's something about enjoying the process that is
yeah,
important, even if the outcome isn't perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect.
absolutely,
So
absolutely
I
right.
love
Yeah,
hearing
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Have you got any particular memories of gifts that you've given or received over the years that kind of stand out?
Um, I suppose probably the most emotional one for me, the most sort of, the most special one, interestingly, wasn't a thing, an object or anything like that. So I think my son was I think he was just going to secondary school, actually. He should be about 10, 11. And what he'd done is he'd made, I think it was for my birthday. So my birthday's in August and he was going to new school in September. And he'd made some vouchers himself. And I wondered why he wanted to borrow my printer. So, can I borrow your printer, Mum? Yeah, of course you can. Okay, right, I won't interfere. So, he's old enough to know what he's doing with it. And
Yeah.
he'd printed and made up these vouchers for me and put them in an envelope, which
Yeah.
he then decorated with pictures. And the vouchers were things like no more washing up for a week, extra hugs. And
Oh,
I was like, Oh my goodness. Now I think I've still got the voucher somewhere. And I've definitely still got the envelope. And as I said before, he's 18 now, so 7 years, because that was just the most memorable gift.
Yeah.
And the thought that had gone into that, and and there isn't an object or a thing in the world that would even really come close to something like that for me. And it really was. And I thought, he's actually thought, which means he's actually recognized that mum's always doing the washing up.
Yeah.
She might need some extra hugs, or put your feet up for the next 4 Sundays in a row. I mean, he came up with all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Sort of 4 or 5 little vouchers, and I had to hand them over when I wanted to cash them in. I mean, what a gift. And that's probably, I'd say, that's the sort of thing that completely stays with me, always will, really. Priceless, isn't it?
And not just, I mean, I love an experience gift, but that is experience gift to another level, where it's really, really thoughtful. How lovely.
And so personal, so personalized, and I'm very thoughtful for a nearly 11-year-old as well.
Absolutely. That's so lovely. I think it's really, I love those little moments where you see your child do, you've hopefully modeled gifting and giving, and then you see them pick up on that and come up with their idea of something that they're going to either choose you or make for you. That's wonderful.
Exactly
really
that.
Good.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Well, I absolutely loved having another chat with you, Lorraine, and hearing all about what you've been doing with the business, and then chatting about gifts and wrapping and everything. But I know that there will be people listening who have been like, right, where's that? Where do I need to go? Where is it? What is it? How can people find you?
Best thing to do is go and visit the site, really, which is www.partywithoutplastic.com. So on there, obviously, you've got the full marketplace, but you've also got a lot of links around why becoming a seller, what the benefits are, and how to join. So if people are listening and they want to have a chat with me about whether their products might be suitable, I'd be absolutely thrilled to have a conversation. And obviously, go and have a browse at the marketplace. Try out our new AI sustainable party planner. It's completely free. You can generate themes and get ideas for alternative sustainable products literally within like 2 minutes. So that's also free to use as well. If you prefer your socials, then we are mainly at the moment over on Instagram. Someone had nicked the Party Without Plastic name, which was a bit annoying. We are at Plastic Free Party. So that's probably, those are the 2 best ways for getting in touch, really.
Fantastic. Well, we'll put all of the links to how to find you in the show notes so that people can do that. And I'm sure people will be interested to come and find you and have a little look. I am certainly looking forward to checking out all of the new things that you've got on. Got my eye on a piñata, definitely. Thank you for listening to the Greener Gifting Gown podcast. For free resources, head to giftwrappedbyeve.com/freebies. And follow Eve on socials at giftwrappedbyeve on Instagram and Facebook.